And that and I feel like could so easily be something else that someone's gifted at. Like if you're gifted at like hospitality, well, maybe this is the year that you really dive into making your choir feel like such a strong community and such a like safe place for your kids. Like, like whatever your gifting is, like choir and like now we're going to focus also on this a little bit more heavily because if they're shutting down certain things, it just makes it really hard to work on some of the things that we once loved and and have always and will always enjoy.
Welcome to the Choir Baton, a podcast designed to engage with people in stories, ideas, and inspirations stemming from choir. No other art form, no sport, no hobby, no business requires a group of people to execute a communal goal with just their voices. Join me, your host, Beth Philemon, as I interview guests who are singers, teacher-conductors, instrumentalists, and community members. Together, we'll ask questions, seek understanding, and share insight from our experiences in life and in choir. Welcome, Jenna Corley. Welcome to the Choir Baton Podcast. Well, I am so excited to have you on the Choir Baton Podcast. Welcome to, you're still Jenna Henson in my phone. I love you, Josh, your husband, but now Jenna Corley, also known as Jenna Corley Photo. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you, Beth. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. So I am just like so excited to have you on today because I think there's a lot to your story that people need to hear right now. And not that I do like seasons of the Choir Baton podcast, but like if we're entering a new season, and that season being like new life or new goals or like, what do I want for my life? What is choir? And how does choir like play a part in my life and my like identity? And I'm not being a choir teacher like I dreamed in schools because of the world that we're in right now. And like, and your journey is like been totally aligned with that recently, right?
Absolutely. It's been a crazy journey and it's been a lot to process and like I'm still processing it now. So about all the time.
Yeah. Yeah. So I should level set and share that I met Jenna and apologies, I'm like talking as I'm looking away. I'm making sure I'm on my right internet source. So I met Jenna several years ago at Shocker, a Carol Kruger workshop. And we were friends. We had like, she kind of like hit it off more with another mutual friend and they like bonded. And we just like always kind of stayed in touch, but they were always like doing their thing together. But Jenna and I always like stayed in touch. And ironically, her high school choir teacher was the daughter of my high school choir teacher. So this like weird inbredness of that and like understanding. And then she went to Wingate University, and we can talk more about this too, but I'm just going to do like an overarching connection. So she went to Wingate and then had a great student teaching experience there, went to a middle school, was teaching there for a while, got married, moved to Rhode Island with her husband on a whim, well, not a whim, also because that's what the service said that you had to do. And then like got into some photography, then ended up teaching there. And then they moved back here. And then ironically, she ended up back at her same middle school that she loved and teaching there. And then she pieced out Girl Scouts this past May to go and pursue this full-time dream. Now, also in the process of this, I was super honored. Jenna had me out to do her county's middle school all county a couple years ago. It was so fun. Such an amazing experience. Love that. That kind of stuff is my jam. It also meant I get to hang out with her and meet a lot of her kids and see the rapport that she has with them. And then I promise I'm going to let Jenna talk, y'all. Jenna was very influential in a journey of mine because right as I was kind of beginning Choir Baton and like liking this blogging stuff, she was picking up a camera for photography. And she goes, "Hey, I need someone to like practice with." And I knew I needed like better pictures for certain things, but self-image and just like all the things. And I just makes me super nervous. And I it was like a transformative part in my life. Like we just took these pictures together. Do you remember this, Jenna?
Oh, absolutely.
We just like dreamed together that day.
We did. We got in the car and I was like, I'm going to confess something to you. I'm thinking about pursuing this and potentially pursuing it full time. And then you confessed something similar.
Yes, I confessed I was considering leaving teaching and going back and getting my MBA. Yeah.
Yeah, it was I feel like that was the start of like, oh shoot, like we're doing this. Like we've now vocalized it. It's now out there. Like, okay, let's go,
Absolutely. And it was both like exhilarating and terrifying
Mm-hmm.
because we're choir teachers. That's what we love. It's not that we didn't love teaching choir, but this like thread of being multi-passionate
Mm-hmm.
was something that was gifted to us. And I mean, I know I struggled with it for years. And you've struggled with it too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So deep question to just like jump off into is what were some of your fears in that? What were some of the things you struggled with?
Wow. Great question. So just recently quit. So like, I guess my question to you is, do you want my fears when I first started or my fears when I just made the move to quit 2 months
Yeah.
ago?
Let's start with like the first started, right? Because I think that's really crucial within this. So many times people think that when you make the decision to leave the classroom, and you know what? I probably said quit. Let's try to get away from the word quit because it's such like a negative connotation. And I think that we are actually never quit being teachers and we never quit being choir conductors. We may no longer do it in the traditional sense we always thought we were going to be when we left the traditional classroom. We left our past histories with it. But so many times people only see that instance and they don't see the struggle beforehand. And particularly at the beginning when you go to realize, ugh.
Whew, yeah. Okay. So at the beginning, I think
In the beginning was the word. Okay.
I was about to go off with you, girl. At the beginning, okay, so honestly, at the beginning, I was excited because I was mostly more excited, right? I was like, let's do this. I was starting to feel burnout. Every year as a teacher, I don't know if any other teachers can relate to this, but every year as a teacher, when I hit like February, March time, I would feel a little bit of burnout where I'd be like, whoo, are we gonna make it to summer? So and it's funny in February, several years, I guess it was 2019,
Yeah.
was when I was sitting on a balcony. I just got married to Josh, second time because we got married in the courthouse in November and then had the whole thing with our fam bam in
You
February.
didn't get divorced in between there. Not that if that's your journey and that's what you did, that's fine too. They like just had a second ceremony there wasn't like a breakup in there.
Absolutely. Any military people are be like, oh yeah, we get that. So yeah, but non like military people, it seems a little weird, but it's cool. It's cool. So anyways, we got married and I was sitting on the balcony with Josh and I was just like looking at this beautiful city. We were in Miami and I love Miami. We're on Miami Beach. And all of a sudden I just had this thought like, well, what if like I pursued photography? Like I loved it when I was in high school. I worked at Best Buy my junior and senior year selling cameras, selling digital SLRs. I was like, why don't I like look into this? So anyways, Josh took me to Best Buy. I found the camera. I had been texting like a fellow photographer. I was like, hey, I'm thinking about getting into this. And she was like, here's what I would like recommend, but you can start with something smaller. But Josh was like, no, let's do this one. And so we dropped $2,000 in one day. Like he was just like, we're doing it. That was like, okay, this is getting real. Then I took a course and I was like so into it. So like I would come home from school and I would just be like, just like watching. And all of a sudden, like my love for this other thing just started to like grow. And my love for choir was still so, I mean, I still love it so much, but it was just like all of a sudden something now is growing and I'm like, okay, like I'm binging business podcasts, I'm like constantly listening to everything I can to learn. Cause like we as teachers are always lifelong learners. So we're always trying to like get our hands on like whatever we can do to find to like learn something new and to feed our minds. And, at the beginning, I feel like the feeling was mostly excitement. And then when I vocalized it with you, it was like, hey, you and one other person I texted because I listened to a podcast and they said, today, if you could take one baby step towards your goal, what would it be? And then we encourage you to do that. So I was like, well, a baby step would be to just text someone and be like, can I practice on your face? So I texted you and I texted another family and we just went for it.
Yeah.
And that was just such a great day of dreaming and talking about it. And just, I think that younger Beth and Jenna, so I guess that was like 3 or 4 years ago, I think that they would like look at us now and be like, holy shiz, they just did that, but like at the time we were both like, how the frick is this going to work out? I'm keeping all my language, queen. So just heads up for everyone.
I wonder if any other choir baton or any choir podcasts have like an explicit label on it. That like might be a dream of mine to have like an explicit label. I love it. I'm here for it.
Thanks, girl. Yeah. So anyways, I just, all that to say, the overall feeling at the beginning is excited. And then when the military pushed us to Rhode Island, so they pushed us out of our comfort zone, I think that's when like, I was very naive, luckily. Like, so I just like let things happen and just took it one day at a time and operated in some scarcity. And like, honestly, like God provided a really phenomenal job up in Rhode Island when I just wasn't making it. Moving to a new city and starting a business and being like, yeah, we're going to do this with nothing prepared was not wise. So, yeah, that's just what it was. And it was a learning thing. I think sometimes you got to eat crap to learn. Like we learn way more from our failures than we do our success. So yeah, for me, long answer short, the overall feeling at the beginning was excited. Different feels 2 months ago though.
Yeah. Yeah. So again, but you were also like excited to get back a bit, or at least that was my perception in Rhode Island. And there was a bit of like safety and like, this is a new school. I know this is my jam. It's different, but it's, and then the opportunity to come back, you taught all last year, through the crazy of what that was. And then, yeah, you got to the place that you were like, I'm going to leave. So what was that like?
Yeah. So when I was in Rhode Island, I was operating in scarcity because again, like to be totally like 100% transparent, we didn't save. I didn't take, like I didn't have steps. I didn't have a plan. I was just like, we're going to do this. Didn't realize the cost of living up there. And so I was so grateful to get that Rhode Island teaching job, North Smithfield Middle School. It was, such a great year. So supported. I loved having a union. Like the district was so sweet, whatever. So then we get moved home. Josh gets out of the military. I was able to get my old job back at South with my old principal who I loved. And then taught for a year again through COVID. And during that year, it was just hard. Like we all ate crap. Like it sucked. And you tried every day to be positive and like But then you would like see parents comment on like the Facebook page where they're like, teachers need to get back into school. And like, you would just feel all these emotions of like, I don't feel supported. And like, there was all this grace for the kids. And um, it just felt like overall, and I'm not going to speak like just for me, like I'm just going to speak for like the teacher community that I am in and who I'm friends with, but it felt like there was a lot of grace for the kids and not as much grace for us. Our job became like doubled. All of a sudden now we've got to like make sure we're engaging people on the screen and also in front of our faces. And so our job, we were doing two jobs at once, and then with doing that and then also having like the comments on Facebook page, you should never go to the Facebook comment section. That is literally waking up and choosing violence. But that's what I would do. I would go to the page and I would like randomly see it and I would be like, this sucks. Like, and so anyways, so I was like, I loved teaching and I loved my job, but there was just so many like little things were just like getting to me mentally. And so I was feeling burnt out in like, I think November, honestly.
Yeah.
So I had a good month in November. I called a friend and was like, what should I do? Like, I want to scale my business. What do I do? So I hired a business coach in January, worked with her. We sat there and like, we worked through so much mindset stuff. Because, and I won't blame it on like public schools. I'll just blame it, I guess, on me. I just had a lot of stuff I needed to work through. But there is a lot of like rhetoric and like a lot of stuff that like public schools like put on you as a teacher. And like, they're like, you were doing this for the kids. And I'm like, yeah, for sure. But also could you pay me more? Because this is like, I don't want to just like the excuse be to like, well, you're a martyr, so like be a martyr. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I just felt so many feelings. And I, again, it's no one in particular, like in my life that made me feel that way. It's not my old principal. It's not any, it's just like, it was just a cluster of that.
Someone used the phrase though, and I think it's really relevant. And I share this with those that are listening that are in the classroom, whether it's a collegiate, middle school, high school, elementary school community, even still, right? Like someone shared with me that your colleagues oftentimes in these instances, and even last year, they establish trauma bonds. Like it's trauma. And then especially last year, like teaching in and of itself has such a level of that. And I find myself, while I'm no longer in a full-time classroom setting, those habits are increasingly more apparent to me now. And then the friendships at times too, that's a whole other story. But you realize, were they my friend or were we bonded by the trauma?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh yeah. I know my friend Jess threw that out at me the other day. She was like, it's the trauma bond that like really connected us all. And I was like, yes. And then there's a little bit of shame, like, or like guilt for me now personally, now that I've left the classroom. For now, it's like, oh gosh, like I'm not in it, but like, I still want to support my colleagues, support my peers and be able to speak for them because again, some of these things that I'm sharing right now, like I probably wouldn't have shared a few months ago when I was under contract because I could get in trouble for being like, I didn't always feel like the community supported me or whatever it was that I was feeling at the time. Like there were so many feelings. And again, I just couldn't express them because, we can't contractually. So
it's murky, right? It's so murky, especially when we see some teachers on TikTok or on another Instagram or this, that, and the other that are sharing things. And each county is so different, particularly if you have a union or you don't have a union, like all these types of things. And you can feel so silenced as a teacher. And I think for me, what was hard about this is that you feel so silenced while particularly in today's day and age, you want nothing more than to empower your students to not be silent. And you empower them through music, making noise, not noise, but some of those noise, but making a beautiful sound, right? Like, and yet you feel that yourself. It is like a lot. It is a lot. Now, I also want to stop us here too, because, if someone's listening to this and they're being like, oh, great, Beth, thanks for having a podcast. It's all about, this is how you get out of teaching, because teaching is this and teaching is that. I want us to touch on a couple of things and really lean into them. And the first being that you can be a choir teacher and not be, I'm going to say this and then have to believe it in my own mind. You can be a choir teacher and not be a full-time classroom choir teacher all the time. Do you believe that, Jenna?
I absolutely believe that.
I'm going to be real. I really struggle with it. Even though I just said it and I told you, I'm still struggling with it.
Absolutely. I mean, it's hard because you just don't, you're like, oh, this was like my life every single day. Like, I don't know how long you did chorus, but like, I know I did chorus since I was in like 5th grade. So to all of a sudden not be doing it every single day, it does feel like a little bit of like, oh, identity crisis here. But yeah, I mean, it's just, those feelings are valid, but also like the truth is you will always be a musician and you'll always be a choir teacher.
Right. Well, and then I think too, when I get realistic, I step back and I look at, okay, what parts of our days we're actually teaching choir versus other crap that we had to do. And that is at times a sobering realization. And that, depending on how you build your life and what your goals are, you can ultimately build your life to however you want it to look and be built upon and all these types of things, which is really, really powerful. But that is not a mindset that particularly those that were brought up in an traditional educational system and then continued our lives in it. As a teacher, we were never really encouraged, at least in my school and a lot of schools I've seen, to really lean into that. And then the other thing, though, I do want to call out is that, both your and my decision to leave the classroom full time was not a snap decision. It was something we spent years on. And you so eloquently put it, like you really planned and set goal milestones, and it wasn't a haphazard thing.
Absolutely. I said it with my business coach, and there were multiple times when I would meet with her and like, I would literally be like, I'm not going to leave. I'm not going to leave. I love teaching so much. And then the next week I'd be like, oh, but like, I'm so excited about this too. And she would be like, okay, well, why don't we journal on it? And I'd be like, okay. And like Josh would tell me, cause like when I knew I had to hustle in order for me to be able to make it a possibility to have the option to walk away. Cause like, I didn't want to be in scarcity like I was last time. So I knew I was like, I need this much in my bank account. I need this much 3 months in a row that I'm consistently making like revenue wise so that I can pay myself. And so I like had these goals and I was like, I got to hustle in order to get those goals. So I was working like 60-hour work weeks every week because I was like, I just want the option. Right. And so like, I remember when I finally hit the goal, I was like, and I had like, my kids had even asked me, oh gosh, and this is something I'm still working through, but my kids were like, Miss Corley, like, are you so excited for next year? And I was like, yeah, like, let's go. I'm hyped. They're like, you're not going to leave us, right? And I was like, why would I leave you? And they had just always had music teachers leave them. And so I remember being like, no, like, I don't plan on leaving you. And I also got teacher of the year. So I was like, no, like I have responsibilities. But my love for my business. And so everyone that's listening, like if you don't know me, I run my photography business, but I also run a coaching business for teachers. Not trying to plug myself, but it's just like I coach teachers how to supplement their income because 52% of North Carolina teachers have to have a second job in order to make ends meet. So that's what I do. I'm passionate about teaching. I'm currently teaching other teachers how to like either stay in the job and like balance it and like love their life and shoot in the summertime, photograph clients on the weekends, or if their dream is to leave teaching and pursue that full time for a little bit more flexibility in their life. Both are honorable and both are great. And I'm absolutely down for both. And yeah, I don't know. I just remember I had goals I had to make, and then June came and I hit them all and it was time to decide. So
And I love
It
that
was
you
hard.
said that you had the option though, right? Like it was giving yourself that option. And I think that's a really valuable place for people to think at in this, particularly in this upcoming year. And that's why I wanted us to record this episode where, we're not going to be talking about like extreme choir strategies and like rah rah rah, and like when Mendelssohn, and I mean that's kind of not even really the ethos, but I can nerd out on that stuff too. But that's not all the ethos of Choir Baton. But I think we are looking at a year of like almost even more uncertainty than last year. And I know I've had multiple conversations with teachers last year, and it will continue through this next year, where it's going to be like, I just have to get out. I just have to get out. And there's two things that you have said within that context that are critical. One is you gave yourself the option. It wasn't a decision out of like desperation necessarily. You didn't let yourself get to that point. And secondly, that came out of a scarcity mindset. And so if someone is listening to this, I'm pretty sure I did a Choir Baton episode on it. I don't know, a ways back, because I've worked through that too. But Jenna, what is a scarcity mindset, and how might it be applicable within the choir rehearsal classroom?
Oh, that is such a good question. So for me, I am an Enneagram type 6, which means that I am the loyalist. So like there's great qualities about that personality type where like they're loyal to their friends and like they love community. But like the flaw is that we are typically worrisome people. We think like worst case scenarios so that we can be prepared for everything because we love security. And so for me, money makes me feel secure. And it's just also money is a motivator for me. Everyone's motivated by different things. And like, it's absolutely great. Like, if you're like, oh my gosh, I would do this for free and I love it and I would just always do it, like, get a girl. But like, your girl's been poor her whole life because I've been a teacher. So I've just always felt kind of poor. And money was a motivator. So anyways, scarcity mindset in the business world for me would be not making enough money, not having that option. In the choir classroom, scarcity was all last year, where I felt like I was constantly like, am I this week going to be able to sing with my kids, or are they going to come in and shut me down? There was one week, like we were killing it. We were rocking and rolling. And we all know kids need to be in routines. We need to set them up early, like very first thing. That's what we're working on. How do we enter the classroom? How do we blah, blah, blah. Right. But week by week, it would like change, like protocols would change, and it was just hard. And so I shared today on my story, like to my teacher friends, I was in my community on my Jenna coaching page. I was just like, those feelings like are valid if you feel like I love this so much, but also I feel overwhelmed. Like those two can coexist, feeling like I love this job because like good things are still happening in my classroom, but also COVID sucks and this is really freaking hard. Those two feelings, like overwhelm and love, can totally coexist together. It doesn't cheapen one or the other. Just like my love for business, your love for business, and our love for choir, it doesn't cheapen the other. It's a beautiful thing to have multiple things that you love and that you're gifted at. Because Beth, you're gifted at it, and I love what I do, and I've been able to step away to provide for I'm able to make more than what I was making in the classroom. And like, that's not like a woo woo, like rah, rah, go Jenna. It's just like, it was a lot of like eating crap. And then finally getting to the place where I was able to have a profitable business and not just an expensive hobby.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I think it goes back to choir and, in this year of teaching, right? Teachers can be so stinking frustrated and yet also still love choir. And that's something my therapist said to me about something completely unrelated a couple weeks ago. But, like, what does it feel like to hold both things at once? And I think at times for those of us that have been like, choir, it's not even like holding on to choir in one hand and like other, it's like grasping so firmly onto all things choir. Like think of people we know that are like that, right? Like it's like, everything is choir. And you and I have never totally been like that, but I mean, we love us some choir stuff too. But what if this time is teaching us also as choir teachers, as educators, to loosen the tight-handed grip on that which is choir and begin to open up both of our hands to be able to hold choir and.
Mm. And that and I feel like could so easily be something else that someone's gifted at. Like if you're gifted at like hospitality, well, maybe this is the year that you really dive into making your choir feel like such a strong community and such a like safe place for your kids. Like, like whatever your gifting is, like choir and like now we're going to focus also on this a little bit more heavily, because if they're shutting down certain things, it just makes it really hard to work on some of the things that we once loved and and have always and will always enjoy.
Yeah. I love that mindset, because it is really vulnerable, because ultimately I firmly believe this. And, I don't know if Meredith ever said this in your classroom. I know Diane said it with me, is that like, I don't want you to all go out and be music educators. And I've said that to my students, right? Like, I don't want to raise a high school choir of everyone going to be a music educator. And I think so many times we glamorize that as music educators. Well, so-and-so is, and I have this many people that are going to do this, and I have this many people. And like, we have to it's such a passion of mine. We have to encourage people to hold choir. And if we're not teaching a choir and within our rehearsals, why and classrooms, like, why would anyone want to sing after school? Because we have, like, after they graduate from a high school or even a collegiate setting, right? Like, we love to gloat that like choir is this lifelong opportunity. You can sing in choir for as long as you want. You can't play football for as long as you want. Like, all this crap that we spew out at these like ridiculous conferences on it. They're not ridiculous, but I'm being, but they're like 10 ways to recruit for your choir, like 10, like, aside from the fact that we are an exclusive club that turns our noses up at people when they don't know what a quarter note is or how to like anyway, all the things. We do not teach our students to be choir, and thus they do not go out and sing. And perhaps what is the best way for us to teach our students that they can do that is that for us to embody that as well, whether it's in a full-time capacity like you and I have gone to do, or whether it's just having something outside of choir that you're passionate about in your life.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah. Pop off, girl. That was it.
I know. Sorry. I just like had like a Billy Graham moment or something over here.
Got the spirit move you.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and then let's be real, right? Like, we've talked about the trauma bonds, but like how, and you probably have, I don't know if you've had this or not. Like, when I left though, you lose friends. Or, I mean, I know that I've lost friends having left, and whether it's an intentional or an unintentional, I think some of it's rooted in jealousy versus a not. I've had people that I look up to so much, and they're like, it's okay, teaching is not for everyone. Or, people you just don't hear. I'm like, I'm sorry, I taught for 12 years technically, and I have my national boards and a master's and an undergrad. Like, come at me, bro, come at me. But like, you lose some friends too. Some people can't hold on to that. And that's hard, but go.
Well, I was going to say, I think that sometimes in our all-in mentality world, I think it's hard for people to understand sometimes, like, oh my gosh, like they love, well, maybe not, maybe honestly, you know what I think some of it is, because I felt this last year. When people would pop off about their freedom, and this is why I'm so careful in my marketing with my like gen ed coaching, like I'm just like always trying to be careful about this, but we call it attraction marketing. Sometimes with attraction marketing where you're like, look at my life and all this freedom that I have now. And oh, look, like I can sleep till 10 and like now I'll just work till 10 p.m. It's no big deal, whatever. Sometimes that causes teacher shame where teachers in the space, because it did for me, teachers in the space all of a sudden are just like, like, well, I'm not there yet. Like I feel shame because I'm not good enough, like, or I'm not enough, or like, I'm not, I'm not, I'm just not there. And, cause we all, our whole life, I feel like, it's always like this timeline, like you get married and then they're like, well, when are you going to have kids? And I'm like, I don't really want kids. I love teaching kids. I don't want them. I know that's weird, but like,
no, it's not. I freaking love that. Like we need to normalize that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like also normalizing choir and normalizing, hey, like if someone feels shame in something, like, like that, I hate that. Like, I don't want to cause shame. So like in my marketing, I'm not going to crap on the job. Like I absolutely loved it. Did I like the way the parents sometimes made me feel? No, no one does. But like, I think that that's something that like is hard sometimes for teachers. I feel like they feel shame.
1,000%, because we are not taught we make it too personal. We keep both hands grabbed on choir so much. For you opening up both hands to hold a choir and nothing says that anyone that opens up their hands has to then lean in on. For you, it was photography. For me, it was the path that I took, right? Like it could very well just be holding two things at once, and that enables that balance. But we're never taught balance as musicians ever as well, because we've placed our self-worth at times not just on how good we are musically, but how exhausted we are, or how tired we are, or how much we're doing, or who went to this weekend event and who went to that weekend event, and how glamorous you are making your Instagram classroom look like, or like all this bull crap. It is crap. It's just crap. Anyways, I could talk about that forever, but people are afraid to open up and to let the real show. And maybe there is something else, and like holding on to, it goes back again to that scarcity mindset of being afraid of like not being able to live in abundance. And we manifest that in so much, right? Like in the arts in general, we're not going to have enough money to do that. We're not going to be able to do this. We're not going to do that. We never have enough tenors, and gosh, we never have enough tenors and basses. And we always need more incoming. Like, it's always we never, we can't, we don't, we must, we have to like push and push and push. And like, what if we just sat back and looked at choir from a place of abundance?
Absolutely. Well, it would be such a paradigm shift for people. It would be hard. It's hard, like mindset work. I mean, you and I both have been through it. I feel like a lot, me specifically, a lot recently with my business coach. She like really, that's like one of her, she's a business coach, but she's also low-key a life coach,
Right.
And that mindset work, it's so hard. It's exhausting. But it's so good. And if we can, well, I think we're going to be forced to in this upcoming year. I mean, I think we're going to be forced, like educators are going to be forced to like get out of the box because of this, I don't know how it's going right now, but I know there's already some like shutdowns and it's just getting crazy. So like as the year approaches, if we can, like you said, approach it with an abundance mindset and like open hands of like, okay, I'm willing to like shift and like mold my program into something that may look a little different for a while, but will keep kids feeling like safe, loved, seen, heard. Like for me, those were always my things in my classroom. At the end of the day, I didn't really care if I got a superior at festival if I didn't help my kids to feel seen, loved, safe, and heard,
Right. Right. Yeah. And hear me too, folks that are, like listening. I'm not saying you need to be like, a rah, 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 ha, 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 like that sort of thing by any means. I also think there needs to be like, you are allowed to feel how you feel and not like it. And, like, again, it's holding both. And that is something, even as choir teachers, right? Like we never hold both. It's always, but what can be better? What is the next step? How can I fix that? Yes, you saying the rhythms and the melodies perfect there, but the tongue placement on the vowel on the and of beat 3 should match this and that, and relax because you were slightly, like we can get so technical and so nitpicky because it's within our nature of what we do and bettering the sound. It's exhausting.
It is. It is. And I was thinking as you said that, I think that we place like expectations on ourselves and on our students. And like, this is the year to not set, like, of course we have expectations in our classroom, but at the same time, like, who told you that you need to be the most perfect choir teacher? Like when and beyond that, who told you that you needed to be perfect? Like getting to the root of like some of these things, again, it's like all coming back to mindset, but it's like approaching this year as hard as it is. And I know someone's probably rolling their eyes out there because they're like, girl, you're not even in it. And maybe that's me just manifesting some of the like, I feel guilty that like my teacher friends are really like going through it right now. Some people are probably rocking it and doing great, but for the most part on my
I would love to, if that is you listening to this, holler back at your girls. Because
yeah, absolutely. Because the community on the Instagram community that I've created is it's not going the way that they expected, but this is the year to let go of expectations and I think really truly open those hands to be like, okay, what is in business and in life, everyone is either a visionary or an integrator, right? And like, I don't know if we've talked about this, Beth, but like the visionary is the person that's like, we got $3 and we're going to the freaking moon. Like the integrator is like, whoa, okay. We got $3 and you want to go to the moon tomorrow. Okay, how can we get that done? This is the year to like let that visionary out. I know that as teachers, usually we're like integrators because we're like, we got to get this done. And like, we need to like,
I think some teachers are big visionaries though.
oh yeah, I wasn't.
Okay.
I mean, I can be.
Yeah.
I got a 76 visionary, 77 integrator when I took the crystallizer test.
Yeah.
And my integrator is so used to like operating, especially like in this world of like COVID maintenance, to where it like pushes down my visionary. And it sometimes can be like, it's annoying. It's so annoying. It's so hard for me to like put my little integrator in a box and be like, calm down. Let's let the visionary out. And having those days, like if we could have a day or just a time to like set us, like if all of our planning is done, if all of our meetings are like good and we're like, okay, let's take 10 minutes during our planning to like just dream and have vision for our program, unexpected, like, let's just see what this could be. I think that could be such a game changer.
Girl, I want to know, at least for me, I was never one to always be done with my planning and to always be done with my meetings. So that would never work for me. If that is you, love it, here for it. Do you, girl, and everyone listening. I will never be done with any of it in my mind because like I will just spin myself up so much with all the plans into the vision, or I like start from the vision and then work backwards. But I think that's the thing within a mindset work that we can do as teachers, particularly as choir teachers, is that we have to come back to the stories that we're telling ourselves, and then also talk with our students about it as well to better understand the stories that they are telling themselves, because ultimately we're singing about the music. Every song we're singing is a story that someone is telling in some context. And the importance of these stories helps us unlock what the other part of our choir and is, like how we relate to the story is how we connect to the opposite end of the and that's okay. We can be both.
You can love multiple things.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, Jenna, this has been awesome. And I hope that choir teachers out here that are listening, first and foremost, like find comfort. There was one other thing I wanted to mention too, and I don't know if you felt this yet, but I think that it's also critical for people that are considering leaving the classroom at this point, whether again, in any of those capacities, maybe even like leaving choir in general, that which frustrates you within your choir classroom is going to carry itself with you, except it will manifest itself differently, right? So whereas it might be an annoying parent, not that we ever have that, like hypothetically, it could be an annoying client. For me, it could be, corporate that I work with, or, like the things that frustrate us within those contexts, like we never fully leave them. Now, I'm not saying that's not like a reason to leave, but I think there's also this misconception that people think that, they don't have to deal with it. Like, no, there's crap everywhere. And the same ways we react and respond, reappear in different ways as well. Because now you're going to really laugh at me, Jenna. Ultimately, I think life is one big choir.
I'm not laughing because I think it's silly, because I agree. Like, I totally can see. Go ahead, girl. Paint the metaphor for me.
No, I want to hear your interpretation, because you're like, I totally agree. Like, it is. We're all leading one big choir.
Absolutely. We're all choir. Shoo, and teaching. Well, remind me to get back to encouraging the teachers, because I had something I want to say. But like, choir is so community based, and in life, everything is community based. Like everything, like even just like, I won't go there. That's a little political. I was going to go into something, but let's not go there. No, I really genuinely believe everything that we like teach our kids in choir about teamwork and like about just being a part of it. It's beautiful and it's wonderful and it
sucks and it's hard, and there's annoying tenors down the road from you that aren't paying attention, and sopranos that think they're queen of the night, and altos that are stuck singing the same, quarter notes. Like those stories and tropes within, and I know tropes sometimes has a negative connotation. Maybe it actually has a negative, I don't know. But like those things that exist in choir also exist in life.
They do. They absolutely do. And you're right about the stuff that you get annoyed with, every job has its pros and cons.
Right.
I was just going to say too, like for teachers out there, I know that like oh my gosh, they probably need so much encouragement right now. I know my friends do. But I just want to say, like, I've found when I talk to other teachers about potentially like when they're like, gosh, I don't think I can do another day. And I'm like, oh, well, like, if you were to leave, like, what would you want to do? Like, what sets your heart on fire, And oftentimes teachers sell themselves short. And I don't know about you, but as an educator, we have so many tools, and especially as a choir teacher, we sell our program to our kids. That's selling, right? That's a huge thing in business. Closing a sale, we market our choir to other kids to recruit. That's a whole thing in and of itself. Marketing, whole job, lots of jobs around that, lots of jobs around sales. Like, we as teachers, we integrate, we strategize, like we do so many businessy things. So like, I just want people to be encouraged that like, don't sell yourself freaking short.
Right.
Like, understand your worth, know your value, and know like you're incredible, even if you're not getting paid enough, which I know y'all ain't. And even if like you're going on the Facebook page and you're seeing the comments that just are ugly and they're just making your skin crawl, like your value, you are so much more than a teacher, but you have so many giftings in that.
Yeah,
probably shouldn't say
because you are a teacher.
And absolutely. and you have so many giftings in that as a teacher. So don't ever sell yourself short. Don't ever feel like you're stuck. You're not stuck. You're amazing and you are giving back to our world and you're doing great things. But if you ever decide that you're like, oh, I'm not really sure I want to do this anymore, like no one blames you. There's no shame. Teachers love to play the shame game and be like, oh, well, like what you said, Beth, like, oh, like I heard people that would just say to me, this is my favorite thing I got told once. A guy told me that I would never leave teaching because he was like, you should never leave teaching because people have iPhones. They don't need your camera pictures. That day I closed $1,000 like photography, like a shoot, like an offering that I offer. I closed a sale that afternoon and homie was like, you'll never make it. And I was like, well, $1,000, that's a third of my teacher paycheck, basically. So don't, like, people will try and write narratives and write stories over your life and you don't have to accept them. You can just be like, okay, and understand that that says more about them than it does you. What they're saying out loud, they're talking to themselves. They're saying that they can't do it. So take heart and take courage in that. And if you love teaching, frick yeah, keep doing it. Love it. And I'm gonna be out here on the, who knows, I may go back one day, but like if I'm not back, I'm gonna keep fighting for teachers.
Yeah. That was one thing I felt like I could do more for the teaching community at this point in this stage of my life by doing things like this than I could if I had stayed where I was at that point and for what I needed personally as well. So I get that. Well, Jenna, thank you so much for not only being a guest on the Choir Baton podcast today and imparting your knowledge and joy and passion and experience for all things choir and teaching, but also just for being an encouragement to me. And, any picture you see, like that's on the Choir Baton website for the most part, I think is like by Jenna. So, if you're in the area, go check out, book a session with her if you were interested in that. And then, she also has her coaching business where she's working with teacher photographers or teachers interested in photography, etc. And I know she'd love to speak with you about that. We'll link all of her things in the show notes below. And as a reminder, if you are watching this, well, make sure you've subscribed. And if you're not watching this and you're listening to this, you can watch it on YouTube. Choir Baton teaching memberships open for just like a little bit longer. And more than anything, thanks for listening and let's get more people singing.
Absolutely. More singing. Let's go.
Hey, Choir Baton community, the window to join the Choir Baton teaching membership has been extended an extra week until Tuesday, September 7th. 2021. Now, the choir teaching membership is an online resource for choir teachers to access curated information to help you be successful and feel supported through the school year. Now, I know as a choir teacher, even under quote normal circumstances, there's always a need for support and resources. It's huge, but in the uncertainty of this year as well, the Choir Baton teaching membership is critical. So from now until December in the Choir Baton teaching membership, you have access to all of the content from last school year, 2020 to 2021. These are lessons on instilling choral musicianship into your classroom, whether you're in person, online, or hybrid. And you can also get an overview of the method that I utilize by checking out the recent Choir Baton podcast episode number 75, Back to Basics, where I walk through what that is all about with fellow choir teacher and my friend, Benny Dominguez. We talk all about the Choir Baton musicianship process. And now, in the year 2021, in this school year, in the teaching membership, there's also weekly releases on either a hack, lesson assessment, or a choir builder to help you keep things fresh and give you the resources that you need so it's not overwhelming. There's always something at your fingertips. Now, if you're interested, but you're not quite sure, I want to invite you to download one of our most popular resources from the CBTM, and that was last year's Building the All-Encompassing Syllabus. You might have seen it all over Instagram, and I know what you're thinking, but Beth, I've already started the school year. I get it. But even if you've already started the school year, now is the perfect time for you to review what you have done to see where there might be holes of things that you should have addressed. So you can use this as a resource to help you think through what was missing this year, how you can improve for the next year or next semester. There you can get the short video lesson and accompanying PDFs in your inbox today via the link in the show notes. Now, if you're listening to this after Tuesday, September 7th, 2021, you can still join the waiting list for the Choir Baton teaching membership. And that will be available via the link in the bio as well. So it'll just say, sign up here to be on the waiting list to find out when the Choir Baton teaching membership opens again. Thank you so much for listening to the Choir Baton Podcast. And if you're watching this on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe to our channel, like the video, let us know what resonated with you from this episode. If you're listening to the podcast, make sure you're subscribed. And if you haven't already, leave us some 5-star choir love in the reviews. My name is Beth, and I am all about getting more people singing.